Our camping trip was planned months in advance, and we had been looking forward to it for weeks. My friends and I were all excited to get away from the hustle of the city and immerse ourselves in nature. We packed our tents, sleeping bags, and provisions and headed out early to the forest. As we drove down the winding roads leading to our campsite, we couldn't help but be in awe of the stunning scenery around us. Towering trees stood tall on either side of the road, and rays of sunlight filtered through the branches, casting a warm golden glow. As we arrived at the campsite, we quickly set up our tents and started a fire. The sound of the crackling flames and the smell of the wood burning was enough to soothe our souls. We spent the evening chatting, playing games, and enjoying each other's company. But as the night grew darker, we couldn't help but notice that something was off about Sam. He was always the life of the party, cracking jokes and making everyone laugh, but tonight he was different. He sat by the fire, barely speaking, and whispered to himself. We tried to talk to him, but he seemed lost in his own world. We assumed that he was just tired from the hike and decided to turn in for the night. But as we lay in our tents, we could hear Sam's whispers getting louder and more urgent. It was an eerie sound, and it sent shivers down our spines. Little did we know that this was just the beginning of a camping trip that would change our lives forever. The next morning, we woke up to find that Sam was nowhere to be seen. His tent was empty, and his belongings were scattered around it. We searched the area around the campsite, but there was no sign of him. We started to panic, and our search grew more frantic as the hours passed. We called out his name, but there was no response. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. As we searched deeper into the forest, we began to notice strange symbols carved into the trees and rocks. They were unlike anything we had ever seen before, and they seemed to have a strange, otherworldly quality to them. The forest that had once felt so peaceful and welcoming now felt sinister and foreboding. After a full day of searching, we decided to report Sam's disappearance to the police. The search and investigation that followed were extensive, but there was never any sign of him. The symbols that we had seen in the forest were never explained, and the mystery of Sam's disappearance remained unsolved. Years have passed since that fateful camping trip, and Sam has never been found. Despite numerous search efforts and investigations, there was no evidence that could lead to finding him. My friends and I have since moved on with our lives, but we can't help but wonder what could have happened to him. Some of us still go back to the forest, hoping to find some clue or closure. It's a haunting feeling, knowing that a dear friend is still missing without any explanation. It's difficult to accept that he may never be found, but we choose to hold on to hope that someday, somehow, we'll have answers to the mystery of his disappearance. However, one thing is for sure, every time we think of the camping trip, we can't help but feel a deep sense of unease. The forest that once felt so peaceful and inviting now holds a chilling and ominous presence. We realize that we never really know what lies within the depths of nature, and that the wilderness can be both beautiful and treacherous. My friends and I decided to go camping to let out the stress from working. We decided to go to a new place since we were always camping at the same place. We didn't really have anything in mind. We were just driving around to see if there was any spot that we liked. We finally stumbled upon a small clearing in the woods that seemed perfect for setting up camp. The spot was surrounded by tall trees, and there was a clear stream nearby, perfect for washing. We noticed the area was unusually quiet as we began to unload our camping gear. There were no sounds of birds chirping or leaves rustling in the wind. We didn't mind so much, as it was just more peaceful without it. As I was about to go wash myself in the stream, I saw someone kneeling down and washing their face already. I couldn't tell what gender the person was at a distance, but I could tell that they were rubbing their face really hard, as if to get rid of something that was stuck on their face. I did not want to bother the person, so I waited patiently for them to finish. But the longer I waited, the more I could tell that the person was not about to finish anytime soon, since they were still rubbing their face as if their life depended on it. I did not know what to do, so I just went back and told my friends about it. One of them went with me to check it out, but when we got there, the person was gone. We just assumed that they were finished, so we decided to wash ourselves. It was finally nighttime, so we gathered around the fire and just joked with each other. I got an urge to pee, so I went to a tree near us and was about to do my business when I heard a walking noise. I saw something move a few feet in front of me, so I pulled out my phone and flashed the light towards it. What I saw almost gave me a heart attack. I saw someone sitting on a log and just rubbing their face with some leaves and branches. I realized it was the same person that I saw earlier in the stream when we first got here. I got so scared that I ran back and told my friends what I had witnessed. Everyone did not know how to react to this news, so they all slowly walked me to the tree to take a look. We couldn't find anything, so they just thought I was seeing things due to the shadows of the forest. Afterward, when it was very late, we called it a night and went into our respective tents. In the middle of the night, I suddenly woke up to a peculiar noise. It was the noise of a wolf howling at a distance. Wolves howling at this time was not strange, except that this howling sounded more like a person doing it, trying to be a wolf. I kept listening, and after a while, the sound stopped. I did not know how to react to this, so I just went back to sleep, with the blanket hugging me even tighter. Then, I heard it again. This time, the sound was not loud at all, and it was coming from right in front of my tent. I could feel someone walking slowly back and forth between our tents. I could also feel a rubbing sound, as if someone were rubbing their face really hard. It made me think back to what I saw, and now I was starting to feel scared. After what felt like hours, the sound stopped, and whoever was out there seemed to be gone. The morning came, and I asked my friends if they heard anything during the night. They hadn't. Well, I came with my own car, so I told them I was leaving early since they were still planning on staying another day. I just sped so fast out of there and did not let go of my breath until I was far away from the camping site. My friends decided to go camping and asked me to go with them. I hadn't even bought a tent yet, but it sounded fun, so I agreed. We laughed and joked all the way to the campsite, which is very well known for being haunted. We didn't really believe it, so we wanted to experience it for ourselves. When we got there, we thought it was going to look haunted, or at least feel haunted, but it was nothing of the sort. It was such a letdown, but we didn't let that stop us from having fun. I wasn't sure why, but the foods we cooked there tasted so much better than anything we had at home. We were having a fun time just hanging around, but that all changed at night. When nighttime came, we almost couldn't start a fire because the wind was so strong. We had to use a board to block the direction from which the wind was coming for the fire to even have a chance of being alive. After that, we were popping beers and just laughing around. Then, to my surprise, a friend kept looking in a certain direction. At first, I thought it was nothing, but when he did not stop, I asked him why. He said that he thought he saw someone in the darkness waving at him and beckoning for him. My friends also heard him, and we all started to have goosebumps. We thought back to the legend of this campsite, and thought maybe, just maybe, it might not be just a rumor after all. We cuddled even closer to the fire and just tried to have conversations to forget about everything. Before long, it was very late, so we had to go into the tents to sleep. We didn't have enough space in the tents, so one of my friends and I decided to sleep in the car. We covered all the windows with cloths so that nothing outside would be able to look in. It felt safer there too. Later on, I felt a tap on my shoulder when I was dozing off. It was my friend. He told me that he couldn't sleep, so he was staying awake and heard someone whispering his name just outside the car. We are on full alert now. He asked if I could check outside, so I slowly opened a small gap in the cloth so that I would be able to see. It was just blackness. I was about to close it when I saw a small light in the distance. It was so small that I couldn't make it out. I kept looking, and then, to my horror, I noticed that it was coming closer and closer. For some reason, I just couldn't move my eyes away from it. When it got close enough, I noticed that it was a torch, and I saw a woman holding the torch and just standing there, not far from the car. I quickly closed the gap and turned to look at my friend, but I noticed that he was asleep. He was actually snoring. I looked out the gap again, and this time my heart almost dropped because the woman was waving towards my car, as if she could see me looking at her. Her face now was different from before. I could see that her face was very blue, and one of her eyes was gone. Half of her hair was also missing. The only thing that remained the same was that she was still waving towards me. I quickly closed the gap again and just stood there, frozen. I woke up my friend and asked him why he fell asleep after waking me up. He said that after I looked at the gap, he just had a sudden urge to close his eyes and fell asleep. I told him to look at the gap to see if he saw anything. He did and turned to look at me, saying he didn't see anything. I looked out again, but this time I did not see it either. For the whole night, I did not sleep a wink. I kept thinking about what was outside and was afraid it might come back. I was awake throughout the night and was dead tired in the morning, but it was such a relief to see the sun coming out. We got out of there as fast as we could.